when you play against sides, and West Ham do this, they're not going to be a side that presses you high up the pitch. They're going to play more of a mid to low block, as we know is sort of the David Moyes side. And I think one of the issues that we've had is when we've got possession, and this is a recurring issue. We've got better at it as a year or so has gone on, but we're still not moving the ball quick enough. And something that I sort of do want to pick up on, is sort of the interchanging and using width. Because when Paul Pogba does play on that left-hand side, he does come in, doesn't he, Rob? So you need Luke Shaw to push up. And for me, I think I'm not sure the left-hand side worked particularly well today, but I think that, what United need to do better is, one, move the ball quicker, a few more quicker interchanges, but also use the width a bit more. And I don't think United have been doing that well enough this season. Our wing play hasn't been how it has been over the last couple of years. And I do think Marcus Rashford coming back actually is going to be a big plus to Manchester United, because he's a player who loves to run the channels, and I don't think we have done that well enough this season so far.
I think if you've got Ronaldo in your team, you don't want people running channels from there. So Marcus, actually, I think, might find it difficult. Why? Because he can run the channel, but then you've got to kind of shift the play across 10 yards. So everyone's got to go to the right to open the channel up, to pull the defence apart. I think the reason why Pogba works there for me, and it's like, you're right, you're highlighting what you said there about it not working at times. You saw in the first half today that it was one instance where Pogba had the ball in the channel and Luke Shaw overlapped him beautifully. And what did Pogba do? Turned his head inside, looked for Bruno, and he played it across to Bruno, and they lost the ball. When really all he had to do was kind of look right, but play it left. And Luke was in, like, by miles. So that's on Paul Pogba. So stylistically speaking, Paul Pogba will always play more narrow. He's more of a midfielder than, say, Marcus, who is much more of a kind of flying attacker. But I'm not sure whether it would work better today if you'd have had someone who had genuine width there. That's also why I think we didn't start Jadon Sancho. So Jadon Sancho is a guy who stretches the play across the pitch. He would obviously play on the left or the right. He didn't get selected today. And I think it's exactly for those reasons, is that when you're playing against a low block, or it said here, the selection says 4-4-2, that was slightly different to that, is that if you're trying to open up the channels and find a way to get the ball to Ronaldo, because let's be honest, that's what United are trying to do now, get the ball to Ronaldo in the box and let him score. This is the game plan now. If you're going to do that, you need to be smarter with your tempo. And I think when you look at the five behind Ronaldo here, so we're looking at Greenwood, Fernandes, Pogba, Fred, McTominay, that passing function between those five has to be crisp. It's what I call popping the ball about. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's the tempo. And United don't play to any tempo. What do? They walk.
Too many touches. That's the problem.
They walk the ball up the pitch and they go into areas where they can overload, but then they don't overload because they're not playing with pace. Like you just said, there's no Marcus. You can't overload. And then you've got maybe Pogba coming inside and Shaw overlapping, which is the correct way to play the system. But then Pogba's not playing Shaw the ball. So what does Shaw think next time? I won't overlap then. He's not going to give me the ball. So these are kind of communication issues, because one, I want Ole telling his guys to play with more tempo. 2, the second half, United proved that there was tempo's issue in the first half because they were better in the second. But then I think 3, when you kind of look at that middle part of the pitch behind Ronaldo, you could see again that there's just a bit of fragmentation between what Bruno does, how Greenwood plays, and how Pogba wants to kind of dance around that system. And that is an issue for me because, again, Bruno was 10 today, dropping into 8 positions, almost dropping deeper, getting the ball, going wide again. Not as bad as maybe in other weeks when he's done that. And he did obviously show a good connection with Ronaldo for the goal. But that still is a problem for me, is that United look like they're still not particularly comfortable in their own skin when they're trying to create the tempo that they need to create.
I think there's a little bit of an adjustment as well to playing with Ronaldo. I think one of the biggest things about Ronaldo, and we're seeing this a lot, is his movement's so smart, Rob. It's so clever, the way he times his runs. We saw that for the goal. Again, we're seeing some nice link up between Bruno and Ronaldo. Bruno's done that. He did that obviously against young boys. He's finding Ronaldo. That's working quite well. But there's still an adjustment because Ronaldo's movement is extremely good, and obviously the players are still trying to get used to it. What I'm worried about slightly is I don't want us to become so focused around just providing Ronaldo with opportunities. I know that means Ronaldo will score a lot of goals, but I do think that might hinder the side as a whole. So for me, I do agree with you. I think when you're looking at the 3 behind Ronaldo, that could change every game. You could have Sancho on the right, you could have Martial on the left, Rashford's going to come back as well. So that could change a lot. So I do think that United still have to find the right balance there. Mason's been fantastic this season, but for me today, Rob, when I saw Mason playing today, I felt United needed possibly someone more like Sancho who's going to hold the ball a little bit and be a bit more intricate and be a bit more creative. Mason, for me, isn't that. He's going to go for goal and score. And you have to start him today. But that's what I was thinking, sort of maybe 60 minutes in, that would have been a good time to bring on Sancho, someone who's going to hold it, be a bit more intricate, find Ronaldo, that sort of thing. But that's how I sort of saw it today.
Yeah, I think the shape of the game dictated the substitution. So when Lingard and Sancho came on, I thought that was the right point to do it. I think if you'd done it any later, then you might have lost some impact. But I think if you'd gone earlier, it would have been unfair on Mason. I don't think Mason did anything wrong today. I think what you want in this shape, in this kind of 4-2-3-1, when you're playing a low block, is, as I said, one, the tempo to be better. Two, the passing to be better. But then you've got to allow someone like Mason to go and get closer to Ronaldo, in the system. So that's why you play Pogba on the opposite side, because what you then get is Fernandes and Pogba playing a little bit more kind of tiki-taka, kind of more one-touch stuff, keeping it on that side of the pitch, and then allowing Mason to maybe ghost in towards the back post. So you go from left to the right-hand side. So I wouldn't say that Jadon had to start. And I think this is where I think United fans have to be careful, because obviously Jadon started in the last game in the Champions League, and we all know how that went. Now, that wasn't Jadon's fault, because it's just simply how the game panned out and what Ole decided to do. I would put that more on the manager. But then, of course, if your plan over 3 or 4 games is to spread out the minutes, you then can't take Greenwood out of this match. Say, well, you're going to have another game where you're not playing, and we're going to play Sancho because we want to play him into form. So I was okay with Sancho starting on the bench today. And I just think it's more about Haider making this system work for you a bit more. Football is a simple game when you do the basics. And when United in that last 10 or 15 minutes just played simple football like you would on a football pitch, you're not looking for the Hollywood pass. You're not trying to do something that's world class. You're just trying to progress the ball from Luke Shaw to Paul Pogba's area to Ronaldo's area by playing 3 or 4 quick balls. That's all you want to do. It doesn't have to be special. It doesn't have to be world class. The goal that Lingard scored the other week, the 4th goal in that game, and it was those little passes, and everyone was like, oh my God, it's amazing. What a fantastic bit of play. Well, it was amazing, but it was simple. It's really simple football. Football is at its best.
But that's what Oli did today, Rob. He went back to basics, and going back to basics,
in the end, he did.
Fred in there, and that's what he had to do to get the win. After what we saw midweek, it wasn't time to tinker, and that's why I understand. I actually tweeted before the game, Rob. It was actually the right decision. Sancho didn't play, but as the game was progressing, I thought, Sancho's qualities with his retention in the final third, his creativity would have been a bonus. I mean, there's a lot of questions here. Some people saying, sort of they thought Wan-Bissaka was very good today, more effective in the final third. Others were saying they did see him overlap. I thought Wan-Bissaka was decent without being spectacular, but it is an issue that his maybe lack of overlapping or going forward is going to hinder whoever is playing on that right hand side.
Well, this is what we're talking about, about where if you bring Sancho in, you have to decide what you want to do with him. Do you want to play him on the left? Do you want to play him on the right? Do you want to kind of play him more as a number 10? There's options with Jadon Sancho. It's just about how do all these pieces fit together. And I think there is a valid claim here that Ole hasn't had substantial time still with his team. Like we're talking about these 3 signers coming in. Has he found a way to get the best out of them? Well, it's quite clear that the answer to that is no. We're not seeing the best. It's not the best chemistry. It's not the best passing. But there are basics here that I would just expect good footballers to be able to do. So like we said, I'll go back to it. I talked about tempo just a minute ago. I want to see Man United playing against low block and saying, right, we've got to move the ball quickly. We've got to get up the pitch quickly and be able to face Declan Rice in an area where Declan Rice doesn't want to face you. Yeah, Declan Rice does not want to be on the edge of his own box. Declan Rice wants to come and meet you higher up the pitch, or come and destroy you in other kind of combinations. So like, say, for instance, if McTominay gives the ball to Bruno, Declan Rice will smell it. He's coming out quickly. He's going to meet Bruno in an area that suits him and not suit Bruno. So these are little things that you can definitely iron out over a longer space of time. When you look at the stats, which obviously we've got rolling across the bottom here and backing up what we're talking about, United had 17 shots today, 10 on target, but that came later. It came when they sorted it out. Up until I think the 80th minute or maybe the 75th minute, maybe when the substitutions came, United only had 2 chances in the whole of the second half. And that shows that there's still an issue with passing the ball and creation. We had all the possession today. So the ball was ours. It belonged to us, but we still couldn't quite do it. But what's really important is that you win the game. I say it all the time, don't I? You don't have to be perfect. You can come away from these matches and say, have a game where you feel you did 80% of what you wanted to do. But if you go away with a victory, then everything's great.
Look, Rob, last season we had an awful start, and it was 3 defeats, wasn't it, in our first 5, I believe. We're sitting here with 4 wins in 5, 1 draw, sitting at the top of the table, Liverpool and Chelsea. Chelsea looked very good just now. Liverpool looked very good. Man United haven't hit their gear yet, but we're obviously sitting at the top with them. So I'll take that at the minute. I'll take that where we are. We can get better. The combinations aren't fully there. We've got a couple of new players to bed in as well. But I look at it and I think it's a great foundation. We can be better, and we know that already.